We thank Katie and Connie and our choir for their beautiful music. Today we're starting a new worship series. It's going to run for the next 4 weeks. We're looking at movies that are recent and what are the messages of faith that we find and we might find in those movies. And so today is the Barbie movie, and next week we have Rustin, and then a really delightful movie called Doggone, and finally we end the series with the movie Elemental. You don't have to have seen the movies to be part of our worship series, but we do have a list of the movies on our website and in our Tower News, which is our e-newsletter that goes out twice a week, and there's information there about where you can watch these movies. All of them are available for streaming, and so we hope that you'll enjoy this series. We're hoping that at least one of the movies will have a little watch party here at UUMC and invite you to come and watch the movie together before the Sunday where we're going to talk about it. So our American culture has many popular theories on how to build the perfect life. There are so many books and podcasts and articles that have been written about what we should do to attain perfection. Try this formula, set up this system, follow this particular path, and yet the truth is there is no actual formula for perfection. A perfect life cannot be built by our own efforts, even if we follow a perfect set of guidelines perfectly. And as the saying goes, there is no cure for being human. No cure for being human. It is, in fact, our imperfection, our vulnerability, our humanity, rather than our perfection, which is the most powerful and beautiful place of connection and community. The Barbie movie reminds us of this and other truths. Written and directed by Greta Gerwig, the Barbie movie has been a box office hit, resonating deeply with viewers. Technically, the movie is a comedy, but it also contains some deeply emotional points. People have reported crying during the Barbie movie. It moves them to tears. The movie, here's just a little recap. The movie begins in Barbie Land, which is very pink and seemingly perfect every single day. Stereotypical Barbie, played by actress Margot Robbie, has always looked perfect and had the best day ever, every single day. But then, one day, it all changes. As she wakes up, stereotypical Barbie thinks about death. There is no death in Barbie Land. And she discovers upon awaking that she has bad breath. She falls out of her dream house and she trips over her newly flattened feet. Now, if you did not play with Barbies as a child, here's just a quick explanation about the flat feet and why that's such a big deal. See, Barbie doll's feet are permanently formed to wear high heels. Her ankles don't bend. If you had Skipper, she had flat ankles, or flat feet, but no one else did. Her ankles don't bend so that she can slide her feet into all those high-heeled shoes. And now, shockingly, Barbie's ankles bend and she can scandalously wear flats. According to her fellow Barbies, she's malfunctioning and she needs to go to the real world to figure out why. So Barbie leaves the perfection of Barbie Land and sees the existence of an imperfect world for the very first time. What she finds in the real world and the cycle of emotions she begins to feel send her into a full-blown identity crisis. Instead of her usual perfect hair and outfits and upbeat personality, we find Barbie lying flat on the ground, face down, doing the big, ugly cry. And it's very relatable for many of us when our lives too suddenly spin out of control or turn upside down or things just don't make sense. The movie, it turns out, is intended by Greta Gerwig to be a creative version of the creation stories that we find in the book of Genesis, transporting us to a different type of Garden of Eden. Stereotypical Barbie and Ken, played by Ryan Gosling, are the writer and director Greta Gerwig's Adam and Eve figures. In Gerwig's version of the creation story, the Barbies are created first, and Ken was created to be ornamental. The pair is placed in Barbie land, where everything is perfect and where they have the best day ever, every single day. When Barbie gets to the real world, she meets the actual creator of Barbie, a woman named Ruth Handler, played by Rhea Perlman. And when Ruth offers Barbie a cup of tea, their hands touch, like Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel painting the creation of Adam. Another biblical reference to the Genesis creation stories intended by the movie director. Another thing is that in Gerwig's version of the Genesis story, Ken only has a good day when Barbie acknowledges him, and all the Kens compete with each other for the Barbie's attention. They wear hats, they hold binoculars and ice cream cones. They're the cheerleaders at the Barbies' volleyball games, and they're the cheerleaders in life. But the Barbies hold all the positions of power and privilege. The Barbies are the doctors, the astronauts, the writers, the construction workers, the presidents, and all the Supreme Court justices. And as narrator Helen Mirren says in her iconic voiceover in the movie, thanks to Barbie, all the problems of feminism and equal rights have been solved. At least that's what the Barbies think. In the real world, which is kind of like when Adam and Eve were exiled from the Garden of Eden, Barbie and Ken, who tagged along in the back of her convertible, experience shame and feel ill at ease. And when Barbie meets tween Sasha, played by Ariana Greenblatt, Sasha tells Barbie this with her friends sitting around: "You've been making women feel bad about themselves since you were invented." Confused and hurt, Barbie says, "Well, Barbie is so much more than that." Barbies, she thought, were meant to show women and girls that anything is possible. As the movie further explores the question, what does it mean to be a woman and to be human? The answer is this: being a woman, being human, is not simple like the Barbies think. It's rather very complex and confusing. Rather than some unrealistic imposed formula for perfection, being female means a whole lot of contradictory things. Trying to be perfect in all there is just too much, and it's not possible in the ways that the Barbies have envisioned life and lived it. And Sasha's mom, Gloria, played by America Ferrera, the only female executive at the Mattel toy company, gives a mic drop moment of the movie when she speaks one of the most incredible speeches describing the complexity and the impossibility of being female. The speech includes Gloria saying, "It's literally impossible to be a woman. You have to never get old. You have to never be rude, never show off, never be selfish, never fall down, never fail, never show fear, never get out of line." And then she ends with this: "I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself in knots so that people will like us." And if all of that is true for a doll, just representing women, then I don't even know. Contorting ourselves to fit into someone else's mold is something universal that all genders can relate to. The late author and theologian Rachel Held Evans wrote in a book called A Year of Biblical Womanhood these words: "As much as we may long for the simplicity of a single definition of biblical womanhood, there is no right way to be a woman, no mold into which we must cram ourselves. What makes biblical women's stories leap from the page is not the fact that they all conform to some kind of universal ideal, but that regardless of the culture or context in which they found themselves, they lived their lives with valor. They lived their lives with faith." And I would add, it wasn't always pretty, and it wasn't painless, but it was real. Which leads to the last point, and I believe the most powerful point of the Barbie movie: the blessing of being human, vulnerable, imperfectly perfect. Near the end of the film, Barbie tells Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie, that she wants to be human. She says, "I want to be part of the people that make meaning, not the thing that's made. I want to do the imagining, not be the idea." And like many of us, Barbie doesn't actually know how to be human. I mean, do any of us? But she takes a deep breath, and tears begin to fall from her eyes. And she finds that she feels both great sorrow and incredible joy. And as she begins to feel these things and makes her choice to be human, this beautiful song, "What Was I Made For?" by Billie Eilish, begins to play. Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas wrote this song. And while she's singing, footage of beautiful, real, imperfect humans appear across the movie screen. Mothers playing with their kids, toddlers running in the grass, a young woman getting married, a loved one graduating, friends laughing, sisters celebrating a birthday, grandmothers dancing with broad smiles on their faces. It turns out this is the actual footage from friends and family of the film's cast and crew. Eilish's lyrics and Phineas's music, "What Was I Made For?" make this the most emotional scene of the movie. Lots of people do the big ugly cry into their popcorn at this moment. Billie Eilish says this: "When I wrote this song, I imagined Barbie's heart song. She said, I also discovered that it was my heart song as well. What was I made for?" is the haunting question this song focuses on. What was I made for? And the song's lyrics focus on vulnerability rather than on perfection. "I don't know how to feel," the song says. "I used to know, but now I'm not sure. What was I made for?" The song goes on to reject all tropes of all kinds and focus more on feeling, not less. And the song ends with hope. The hope found in being perfectly imperfect and totally real. With so many of us in this world trying to be extraordinary, but finding out we're doing it all wrong, the song and the movie conclude answering the question, "What was I made for?" by saying this: something I'm not, but something I can be. Something I'm not, but something I can be. What was I made for? It's all about being uniquely human and finding our own perfectly imperfect way. It's beautiful, and it's messy, and it's wonderful, and it's hard. In her blog post last week, Duke Divinity School professor and theologian Kate Bowler, diagnosed at 35 with stage 4 colorectal cancer, shares the following blessing for being human. I conclude the message today with Kate's profound words: a blessing for being human. Blessed are we living in this small space, in these bodies we now inhabit, within the walls of circumstance, in these short years and finite strength, and with these eyes that only see so far, we are fragile, contingent beings, yet blessed are we, recognizing that it is our limits as well as our gifts that can shape the natural contours of what is possible and guide us to what is ours to do. Blessed are we when it's not our greatness that speaks, but our littleness. For it is our vulnerability that is the truest thing about us, the place where mutual connection is possible, where competition ends and community begins. And oh, how blessed are we in our fragility and our dependence and our brokenness, knowing that you, O God, hold all things together. There is no cure for being human, but for each other, we are good medicine. Amen.
you.